Well, welcome to the show.
This is our view from the bench.
Well, welcome to the show. I'm Brendan, Dan Campbell's Missed Opportunities.
And I'm Corey, the hopes and dreams of Ravens fans, and happy Monday.
Happy Monday, man. It is Monday. It's a somewhat happy Monday for me. Still kind of getting over the Lions blowing it yesterday. Again, we'll get into that in a second, but other than that, how was your weekend?
Not too bad, actually. Ended up not having to work as many concerts, obviously, as we talked about on our last episode. So went to Bryan Adams yesterday, which was no big deal. Actually, pretty easy as far as getting started. So I was able to kind of watch both games while working at the same time. So that was good. And yeah, didn't do a whole lot. I'd actually had my stretch lab appointment today, so got all stretched out, feeling nice and loose and ready to go for today. What about you, sir?
It was fairly eventful, to be honest with you, but like nothing great. Saturday, I was supposed to go on like a little car cruise with some friends. I didn't make it because my car was dead. I don't drive it. I have two, so I've been driving the daily, and it just wouldn't start. So just dead battery, so that kind of sucked. And then Sunday, actually, I woke up with a massive headache. Now, normally I can take like maybe one Tylenol and I'm good to go because I'm fairly lucky I don't have too bad. I needed 4 yesterday, dude, to try to
Whoa.
get through it. Yeah, it was not feeling good. In fact, now that I'm talking about it, I think it's coming back. No.
Oh, no.
Um, but yeah, so didn't get to watch too much of the Chiefs game because of it. I did watch highlights and I watched the whole fourth quarter and a little bit of the beginning, but I was kind of like in and out of a nap. You know, one of those like headache naps when
Yep.
you just need to like kind of close your eyes. So kind of in and out. So Sunday, but once I got that fourth Tylenol in me, I took the dogs for a walk to kind of get outside a little bit. Started feeling a little bit better. So it ended pretty good. But other than that, just church with my dad that morning and some breakfast. Kind of relaxing. So excited to finally have the Super Bowl matchup. You were close in what your predictions
So
were,
close.
but yeah, excited to kind of get into all of it. We got 2 weeks, obviously, until the actual game itself, so we'll have plenty to talk about. We're going to try to come up with some segments to kind of go over the Super Bowl, besides just a general review that we normally do for these games. We normally have a general review because it's so freaking much to review that we got to kind of keep it general because normally there's 16 games to go over, and we kind of pick a couple, or even in the playoffs, right? There's been big storylines, so. But before we get into the conference championships that happened this previous weekend, if you're not already, please don't forget to subscribe. It's free. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. That way you never miss any one of the new episodes that we come up with. Again, about twice a week to give you a nice overview of what's happening in sports. And what happens if they kind of enjoy what they're watching, man?
Man, if you like that stuff, you got to smash that like button if you like what you see, so we know that we can keep on doing this and that you guys are enjoying what we're doing. And again, if you have any comments, feel free to leave them and let us know what we need to work on, or if there's anything you just want to let us know about.
Yeah, exactly. So again, the like button is free also. It really helps us probably even more than you think. So we'd appreciate that. But diving right in, my friend. Chiefs, Ravens, Sunday afternoon, noontime start here in the West Coast. So it was a nice and sunny middle of the day game for us. I know that I think you said you started about this time. Did you
Yep.
catch much of this game?
Yeah, I actually clocked in at 12. So as soon as this game kicked off, I was officially on the
Perfect.
clock at work. But we have a bunch of TVs in the store, and at that point, we're just kind of counting in merch and getting started. So we're not busy. It's kind of a slow process, and was able to watch pretty much all the game. We didn't have to count in very much. Took us really quick, like half an hour or so, and then we were ready to go and just had the game on. Kansas City came out firing early. I didn't expect. It's weird. We talked about how both these defenses were really good, but I didn't expect a low-scoring game. But I shouldn't be shocked based on the fact that these two defenses were one of the best, if not the best, in football this year. So
I guess we're so just like used to these offenses also being good. We thought that it'd be like a little bit more high scoring, right?
yeah, absolutely. But Kansas City came out firing, got touchdowns on their first 2 possessions, and Baltimore, you just from the get-go looked lethargic and kind of lost and struggled on offense for the most part. But again, that goes back to the really good defenses that these two teams have. And, Lamar didn't have his best day, unfortunately, when he needed it to. And the narrative continues that he can't win the big games.
Yeah, which kind of sucks, man, because as much as I was rooting, you know me, I love the dynasty factor. So I am rooting for Patrick Mahomes to get at least 5 or 6 Super Bowls. I don't want him to pass Mr. Brady, but getting right there, I think would be great because people are already gonna kind of give him the nod because of the way that he can play, the ad libbing that he does, the more sidearm throws that people are taking away from Matt Stafford and giving credit to Mahomes on. Brady was the pocket passer that finds the right guy at the right time kind of thing. So he's already going to have the slight edge. I don't need him to have the edge in bowl wins as well. But yeah, I mean, it was one for the ages and just not one that I'm excited to see the Ravens do poorly with. It's just I don't know. It was awkward, but like you said, it was just not necessarily what they didn't play their game. One of the biggest things that I had seen from, in my opinion, was the running game. The Ravens led the league in running, and they only had 6 rushing attempts by actual running backs. They had 2 for
Wow.
Zay Flowers, and Lamar Jackson ran for eight times. But I think there was only a couple of those that were really designed. Most of it was scrambling. So they got away from what they do best, and they tried to match Patrick Mahomes at what Patrick Mahomes does best. And I'm not saying Lamar Jackson doesn't have the talent to do it, but that's not the game plan. That's not what they've been doing all season. I don't know. Just was awkward to me.
Yeah, I'm with you. And like, I think the other thing too is like the first play, the Ravens come out on offense, and I don't know how he got out of it, but Lamar almost got sacked 15 yards deep. And at that point, you're already off to a bad start. If you're the offense, you're
Hmm.
thinking, whoa, Kansas City came to play today. And I know a lot of their players after the game talked about Spagnola is, one of, if not the best D coordinators in the league. I think it also helps too for Spags because he had his chance as a head coach previously and it didn't work
Yeah.
out. And now he's back to his
Where
defensive
was that?
coordinator role. Honestly, I can't think of where
I'll
he
look it up.
was.
I'll
Okay.
look it up. You go.
But I know he had an opportunity years ago, and now he's back as just a D coordinator. And knowing that Andy Reid is there, there's no opportunity, and probably doesn't even want to take the head coaching spot at this point. If you're just going to be there and take care of the defense, if you got Mahomes on the other side, and that's the other thing too. Is like not only does he have a great game plan for Lamar, but I think that has to do with a little bit the fact that they go against Mahomes every day in practice. Not that Mahomes and Lamar are the
Hmm.
same player, but they both are good at kind of running out of the pocket and scrambling and creating things out of nothing. So you have that opportunity to kind of learn at your own practice and way to do it. I mean, it's just the defense for the Chiefs showed up. They did everything they could. They
Yes.
obviously frustrated Lamar. There's that highlight when he threw that interception late in the third quarter, I think, into triple coverage, which I don't know
That was
why you were throwing that,
me
but
either.
he comes off the sideline and throws his helmet. He's pissed off and upset. Obviously, they get a field goal later in the game to have an opportunity to make it a one possession game, 17-10. But the biggest play I think comes down to Zay Flowers. You get that catch inside the red zone, and he's going deep for the end zone, and he gets knocked out, and then the Chiefs get the ball back, and that was kind of like the turning point because it almost felt like if they would have gotten that score, because I think at that time it would have put him within 3, it would have been 17-14. You're like, okay,
Yep.
well now we got a game here, and this is going to come down to a field goal possibly at the end, or even Justin Tucker having to tie it.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, that did not happen because of the fumble. And I mean, if I'm Zay Flowers, I'm sure he's beating himself up over it, thinking it's his reason is the reason they lost the game in general. But he's also a rookie, so learning. When you're in the red zone, you're going against really good defenses. They're going to try to get that ball knocked out of there. That's the whole thing. Is it Tillman back in the day with the Chicago Bears was really famous for punching at the ball, and that's kind of become the norm in the last I don't know
Hmm.
15 years or so. And they were able to get it out and get the ball, and then and again, the Ravens had an opportunity late. They made it a touchdown game, but at that point, it was just too little, too late for them, and the Chiefs were able to run the clock out and walk out of Baltimore with Pat Mahomes' second career road win after having not had to play on the road in his entire career to this point in the playoffs.
Yeah, and his fourth AFC Championship win, going now to his fourth Super Bowl in the past
In
6 years,
six
which
years,
is
that's crazy.
which is pretty crazy to think about. Quickly, he was the head coach of the St. Louis Rams from 2009 to
Oh,
2011, and then
wow,
was
really
an
never
interim
considered.
head coach for the Giants in 2017.
Okay, that one I kind of remember. I don't remember him being the Rams coach. Wow. Well, St. Louis
Yeah.
though, also not in our
Yes,
our
not
area
LA.
at that time. So
Back to Zay Flowers though, because I think that's a good point, and he did take it hard. You saw after the game, Odell Beckham kind of go up to him. I think that was the first. Odell went up to a lot of people. One, he's been to the Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl, been around the league a long time. But the first person that I saw the camera pan to was him talking to Zay Flowers. Again, he's a rookie, so you can't necessarily blame him. But the only thing is, like, you didn't watch any film from last week when the Chiefs played the Bills because that same exact thing happened, and to the Chiefs where Mecole Hardman is reaching across to try to get the extra touchdown, he fumbles it out of the back of the end zone. Now the Bills take it down the other way. So it's in the moment. You're just trying to do what you can to help your team win. He already scored the first touchdown. He was trying to get this second one to get them, like you said, within three. After assuming a successful PAT. But it was just, I don't know. It was a bad game. And again, one of the other things that is crazy to think about. At a certain period of time, Zay Flowers had like 2 catches for 39 yards. I think this was like just after the first half. And Lamar Jackson was the second leading receiver after he had
Oh
thrown
yeah,
that
that's
pass.
right.
It got bumped in the air and he caught it and went for 8 yards. I mean, he didn't finish that way. He finished obviously down below, but it was, I mean, it just wasn't good. Mark Andrews made no impact coming back from his injury. I don't know if it was because he was hurt or if because he was, just being hounded, as Spagnuolo made it a point to stop him and Isaiah Likely. Both held to only 2 catches and then 16 and 15 yards respectively. So
Yeah.
nobody could get open. The defense was swarming, and Lamar Jackson just couldn't figure it out. I kind of put it though a little bit on whoever the offensive coordinator is. I forgot his name at the moment. Running the ball with your running back 6 times that's not your game. They weren't down 30. You know what I'm
No.
saying? Like, play your game. Just because the Chiefs go and score a touchdown first doesn't mean anything. It's the first, you got the whole rest of the game to play. Play your game, run the ball, run the ball. If there's anything that the Chiefs are good at, it's their secondary that is their best asset. So trying to force it into that, it just didn't make sense to me. So again, I'm happy with the result, but again, I honestly would have been happy with the Ravens winning too. I'm just happy that it was a game. The crazy part is though, they scored 14 points almost immediately, and then the Ravens really shut them down.
Yeah.
So kind of like what you said earlier, it was the Chiefs defense that really put them and held them in this game and got them to the Super Bowl. To be honest with you,
Well, you mentioned that they scored on the first. I mean, not only that, they only scored all their points, all 17 of them, in the first half. They didn't score at
yeah,
all in the second half. It was just punt and turnover on downs, I think, once, and then kneeling in at the end to run the clock out. So if you're the Ravens defense, like, you did your job, but the Chiefs defense did their job and made it hell for Lamar out there all day. And just, again, I feel bad for Lamar because the story going to be that he can't win the big game. He got the win
right.
last week against Houston, but Houston's a young team up and coming, so they don't have the experience that even Lamar has very little of, but does have more than them. But you're going
Hmm.
up against the Chiefs, and they won last year, and this, like we said, this has been their fourth Super Bowl appearance in the last 5 years. So there's a lot of guys there, and that coaching staff knows exactly what they're doing. And I don't know, Spagnola, man, he's got the magic with that defense, and that defensive line, made it. I know that there was talk of, I can't remember the guy's name on top of my head now, but he's one of the guys who forced a fumble yesterday for Kansas City. He tore his ACL yesterday and isn't going to be playing the
Charles
Super Bowl.
Omenihu.
There you
Yep,
go. So
that's
that's going to be a
huge loss.
huge, huge storyline going into that, because it's not something like a tweaked knee where you're like, oh, we got 2 weeks because you have the week off in between. No, it's a torn ACL. He's done. So that's going to make a big
Yeah.
difference come Super Bowl weekend. But yeah, man, they just, the Chiefs defense again carries them to win, and the Chiefs just, even though they struggled all year, they seem to just always find a way to be in games, if not win them. And here they are again with Pat Mahomes and Kelsey now just doing their combo and scoring more touchdowns and winning more games and going to another Super Bowl. It's crazy how frequent it has been at this point. Like you said, the dynasty is alive, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. One of the things that is beneficial is the Chiefs are missing two of their core linebackers. The main one being Willie Gay. He was almost about to play, and he had like a kind of a slight neck injury, so he should be, has 2 weeks to rest up. As much as you're losing that great defensive tackle, you
Sure.
are, gaining one of your linebackers back. So, or should be at least. I don't want to speak for what will happen in 2 weeks from now, but you
Yeah,
should
sure.
be getting Willie Gay back. But yeah, the Charles Omenihu loss is bad because, like you said, that sack fumble was what really started getting that defense going and licking their chops, knowing like, hey, we can actually compete with these guys. This isn't as, I won't say that, but I was gonna say this isn't as hard as we thought. But I don't want to speak for the Chiefs. I doubt that's what they thought. One of the things that I thought was funny, and I don't know what your take is on this, because I didn't get to see much, but somebody I was talking to yesterday was kind of informing me about it. I saw the clip of Kelsey tossing Justin Tucker's crap out of the end zone. Did you see
Yeah.
that?
I didn't see it beforehand, but I did look into it a little bit today, and I saw Tucker was asked about it post game, and he just like didn't. Honestly, Tucker didn't really think much of it. He's like, I've been doing the same thing for 12 years in the league. I go to the other end, and I put my stuff down, and Pat had asked me like, hey, can you move your helmet and stuff over, and I did. And apparently, I didn't move over enough, and then Kelsey came over and did his thing, but he was kind of laughing about it. Even the video, you see it when it's happening in real
He's
time.
chuckling, yeah.
Yeah, he's just kind of laughing and not really getting upset about it, because when you read like the blurb, it comes up on your phone, you're thinking like, oh, they're like bickering back and forth. This is like a big deal, but it didn't seem to be that big of a deal. And the funniest part was is once Kelsey came and like moved all that stuff out of the way and definitely threw his helmet away, Tucker then set up his thing to hold the ball to do a kick again. As he walked away, Pat picked it up and threw it away too. So again, I think it was just a little more of a sportsmanship thing. Nobody was yelling or in each other's faces. It was just kind of a funny little like pregame thing. But yeah,
Trying to
I
get
don't
in each
know, man.
other's head a little bit. I mean,
Yeah, a
he
little
is
bit.
arguably the best kicker of all time, as far as accuracy goes, depending on who you ask. I mean, there's been some clutch kickers like Vinatieri and such throughout the league. So I don't want to just put down any other kickers, but if there's anybody I want kicking a 40 to 50-yard field goal with the game on the line, I'm most likely picking Justin Tucker. So
Oh
I
yeah,
think it's a
for
little
sure.
bit of, like you said, gamesmanship and just trying to kind of not get in his head because, again, one of the greats, but just kind of, one more thing to kind of like, no, this is we're coming in here, we're going to do our thing. And they did. They definitely
Yeah, they
did.
absolutely did. And they talked about how too the Ravens, we talked about a little bit too on the last episode, where they were going all out. They brought Terrell Suggs in, they brought Ray Lewis in, Michael Phelps was there. And I don't know,
Little
maybe it was
extra
just,
celebration, like I
yeah, a
said.
little bit too much, and just putting too much pressure on him in a sense. And I mean, the pressure was already on Lamar anyway, because they can't have him into the Super Bowl with him as quarterback. And I don't think Pat Mahomes even knows what the word pressure is. I don't think that even exists in his vocabulary at this point, from based
No.
on what we've seen the last 6 years. Yeah, it's just, again, I when we talked about it, I picked the Ravens mostly when we picked last week, because again, I picked them in the preseason to win the whole thing. But we talked about too, I would not have been shocked if Kansas City found a way to win, and I even had it as a field goal game. So I figured it was going to be close. It was a one touchdown or one score game, but again, Kansas City just proves to be the best of the AFC.
Well, they've definitely earned it.
Absolutely.
Especially this year when all the criticism throughout the season. Oh, they don't have their core receivers anymore. They can't move the ball on offense. They're too reliant on their defense. Oh, Patrick Mahomes isn't the one seed. He has to go on the road. I mean, he gets the one home game because they won the division, but after that, he's got to go on the road. Who knows how they do that? Oh, he's got to go to Baltimore. Their defense is ferocious and they're healthy. Now, granted, he took advantage of the Miami and the Buffalo team, but they were really banged up. We're going to see him really have to and none of that happened. It all, Pat, like you said, Patrick Mahomes overcame that pressure that everyone keeps talking about. So, fantastic game. Didn't end as I feel like most of America wanted, except the
Yeah.
Swifties and the Chiefs fans. Everybody's looking for a brand new team to be in there except the Chiefs. So I know that they will be rooted against heavily. But I know that I am rooting against their opponent. Lions visited San Francisco in the afternoon game, 3:30 Pacific start time. Man, I'll let you go first because I'm just like disappointed. You can't be up 17-0. 21-0 are teams when they're up 17 points in a conference championship game, and now 21-1. So I think it was smart that Dan Campbell took the field goal at the half. I just wish he would have listened to himself a little bit more. What did you see here?
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Lions just came out blazing. They were running all over the Niner defense early, making it look too easy. I mean, they scored on that first touchdown was like a 40-yard run, and they scored within
42.
like
Yep.
4 minutes of the game starting. Like, whoa, what is going on? Like, they're the road team and the inexperienced team. They should not be the ones setting the tone, but they did. They came out. They made Purdy early on look, not rattled, but just not very good, not very good. And the
Average.
Niner offense struggled. I know Debo didn't really do much early on, and like you said, they're up 17-0 before you can blink, and you're like, "Whoa, what just happened here?" Like the Lions actually have a chance to maybe win this game, and I know part of it too, at least for me, is when they went up 21-7. Well, I guess 20-7 because they hadn't kicked the extra point yet. But
Yeah,
Gardner
that's solid.
Johnson for the Lions waving goodbye to the fan. I'm like, dude, there's 5 minutes left in the second quarter. You still have a whole chunk of a quarter and a whole half to go, and you're on the road. What are you doing? I don't know why players keep doing this stuff where they're celebrating way too early. Like if it would have been the middle or late fourth and you go up 21-7,
Different.
okay, I
Different.
could see the waving coming out. But ever since he did the wave, I think they got outscored like 24-3 the rest of the way. So just doesn't make any sense for him to do that. The real momentum turn was when the Niners came out in the second half. They got a field goal on their first drive. You're like, okay, they feeling a little better about themselves. They obviously had a good talk at halftime and kind of motivated some guys. But then they get the ball back after getting a 3-and-out on the Lions, and then they get that crazy, which should have been an interception for the Lions, bounce off the mask. Ayuk somehow catches it in the air and lands inside the 10-yard line. At that point, I'm like, uh-oh, the momentum has finally shifted a little bit here. Like, I think the Lions might start getting a little tense, and the rest of the way, they just looked lost. And, Goff didn't necessarily do anything wrong. There's obviously, we talked about Dan Campbell going for fourth down a couple times, and maybe
Too
one of
many
them should have
times.
taken the field goal. The other one, I could kind of see going for it, but just take the points you can get. It's not like your kicker was one of those guys that was terrible all year or was
No.
part of the reason that you guys lost the few games that you did. I don't. But I guess the other thing too is if you're Dan Campbell, like you've been doing that kind of stuff all year and it got you to this point. So I guess continue doing what you do because it was working.
Before I comment on that, let's show, because we have to show this play. As much as it pisses me off, we have to show that Ayuk play that you were talking about. We got a clip. Let's show it.
Gardner Johnson in for Joseph, who leaves. Here's Purdy with a lot of time. Steps into one. Launching deep, going for Brandon Ayuk. It is. Oh, he caught it off the ricochet. Penalty. Is he in? He's down to the 5. We'll see what the penalty is. What a play from Ayuk. Let's see if it stands.
I'll tell you what. This is the best play they've made all day. And, man, Kendall Vindor, he had one. It hit him right in the face mask. And then, man, give credit there to Brandon Ayuk just staying with the play and catching it off the deflection.
There is no foul in the play. The catch was made, and the runner is down at the contact at the 4.5-yard line. First down, San Francisco.
It was a great catch, but honestly, it was also a very lucky catch. But these are the types of things. But he was focused, man. I can't take it away from him. I'm just saying it was a lucky bounce. Let me put it that way. It was not a lucky catch. It was a lucky bounce. Because one, that should have been intercepted, like you said. And two, if not, what are the odds it goes right to where he's standing? Like, great focus. So I'll give him the props, but very lucky bounce.
Well,
back to the Dan Campbell.
If you talk to Brandon Ayuk, though, he said post game that before the game started, he had a ladybug on his shoe. So apparently that's where he's going. He's saying the ladybug was his luck.
Hey, you know what? I've heard that's good luck. So good for him. Back to the Dan Campbell thing. I understand that 4th and whatever, probably less than 5 for this dude, is what we've been doing all year, and that's what got us here. In my opinion, that's a great motto to have in Week 11 at Chicago. You know what I'm saying? But I don't even know if they played Chicago Week 11, but you get what I'm saying. Middle of the season at a random opponent. But in the NFC Championship game, on the road, against the best team in the NFC, you're going to still keep pushing it, especially because you had some failed fourth down conversions earlier in the game. So to just keep pushing the limit, especially when you're already, now if you're at midfield and it's like that weird position between do we punt it or do we kick a field goal?
Yes.
Okay, maybe. But when you're in field goal range and you see this lead keep slipping and slipping and slipping, like it did after the Jahmyr Gibbs fumble, and they just scored right away again. Quick 17-point turnaround to tie it back up, basically. It's bad, dude. It's really bad. Or I think it was become one field goal down. You just have to take it. In the NFC title game on the road with a chance to go to the Lions' first Super Bowl, and you're just pissing away points because you want to stick to I go for it on 4th down. Not against this defense, man. As much as they were, and that's the other thing. They have really good pass defense. They're bad against the run, but every 4th down play was a pass. So it's like, then do the good thing that you're good at and what they're bad at least. You know what I'm saying? So I don't put that on Ben Johnson. To me, I bet you Ben Johnson as a head coach would be like, let's take those points.
I completely agree.
But I don't know. I just think it was too much of what you're trying to do. And then in the quote afterwards, this might have been our only chance to get here. It's like, well, damn, then why did you spoil it on all these 4th down attempts, man? Like, take the field goal, because in my opinion, there's at least 2 times where they would have got a field goal. And again, like you said, the kicker, Marvin Badgley, is not bad. No, I'm not saying that they're guaranteed makes, right? But let's just assume he does. That's a 6-point swing. Now you're winning by 3 and the game is over. You don't like, I don't know. It's just, again, like my namesake, missed opportunities.
And not only that, like the fact that the offense had completely struggled the entire second half, the fact that you were able to get that close, like, again, take the opportunity to get the points on the board because the momentum had shifted so much. And it's almost the quote they talked about today. I don't remember what show I was listening to or watching, but they talked about the quote from the movie Replacements with Keanu Reeves, where in their locker room, they're asking, like, what are you afraid of? And he says quicksand. And they're like confused. And he's like, it's when you're in over your head, like you do one thing wrong and then another thing wrong. And the next thing you know, it's like quicksand. You're sunken in and you can't do anything wrong. If you can't do anything and the offense is struggling the entire second half, but you're within field goal range, take that opportunity to make that field goal. If you miss it, okay, they get the possession in the same spot as if you would have gone for it on fourth down and not gotten it, but at least you took an opportunity or a chance to get more points on the board. Because like you said, even if he makes just one of those, we're at a tie game going at the end of the game, the Niners would have the ball with an opportunity maybe to win it at the buzzer, or you would have had 2 field goals and you would have been up 3, and they would have had to come down to tie it or take a win at the buzzer. So why not take that opportunity to get those points on the board when going for it on fourth down doesn't get you points? It just gets you more the possession longer.
Yeah, I agree. There was a quote that I'm trying to find it right now to make sure that I say it correctly. But I don't think he's here. RG3 said, I don't know if you saw
Oh, he
this.
wanted to play for the Niners? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, this is he wants to play for somebody. But this is what he said. Sometimes biting off kneecaps means kicking the field goal, coach.
It's a good way to put it.
Like you could be biting. That is taking a dig at them. You're getting more points on the board. You don't always need to score touchdowns, bro. And I truly thought before the half ended, when they were like, it was like 4th and 2 on like
say the same thing.
a 4th and goal, I could have swore they were going to go for it, and I was so happy that he decided to go for the field goal. I was like, you need the point. I don't care if you're up. Take as many points as you can. And sure enough, he could have sure used 6 more. So sometimes, it's not always about the kill shot.
Yeah, and you're totally right. That halftime thing, I was going to bring up the same thing. It almost looked like he didn't know for sure what he wanted. It took him a long time to get the field goal unit out there because Goff and them, I was like, oh, they're going to kick a field goal and take it at half. And then I was like, they haven't put them on the field yet. What are they waiting for? And then you're like, oh my God, they're going to go for it. And then finally he puts his hands up like, no, we're going to kick it. Let's go. And I'm like, oh, thank God. Because otherwise, I don't know what he was thinking. If they go for it and don't get that, then you only go into the halftime up 14. And we're talking about all the momentum at that point would have been lost, even though it ended up getting lost in the first start of the third quarter. But that would have been the beginning of it because you would have gone into the locker room if you're the Niners like, all right, they thought we were going to just crumble and they were going to take a 3-touchdown lead, but we didn't. We're only down 2. We can easily do that and come back in 14 points in a whole half. That's not a big deal. But 17 makes it a 3-possession game at least instead of the 2-possession at 14. So thankfully he did that, but in the long run went for it too many times on fourth down and ended up costing yourself when it's all said and done. And now you got to think next year, the Lions have a lot of guys that are on young rookie contracts, so they don't have to necessarily pay anybody next year big time. I know Johnson's got 1 more year on his deal. They're going to lose their offensive coordinator. I think he interviewed with Seattle today. But just, man, like you said, he even said this was our one opportunity, and you blew it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't put it all on him. Again, he is who he is, right? And the age was saying, well, you do what got you here. But again, not it's different week 11 against Chicago than it is championship game on the road against the best team in the past probably like 5 years in the NFC, besides maybe the Eagles, who obviously made the Super Bowl, and the Rams, who won the Super Bowl fairly recently. It's been the Niners. The NFC has basically been running through San Francisco, and you just gave it away. You had it all in your hand, and you gave it away. So I have something that I want to talk about about Niners and more specifically Niners fans, but like I told you, I'm going to save that until after the Super Bowl in hopes that they maybe don't come away with it. So, because if not, then I'll just be eating my words. And I don't want that. But speaking of the Super Bowl, it is now set. Vegas, 49ers, Chiefs, rematch of the Super Bowl. What is that? 49? No.
Yep.
54. 54. Super Bowl 54. They opened immediately. The Niners opened immediately as 2.5-point favorites, but later, like a few hours later, when I looked at FanDuel, it was down to 1.5. I'll look right now because it should be on the main page. Let's see what it's bounced to. It is Super Bowl.
I don't even know how you get a favorite.
1.5 still.
How do you get a favorite after both games have just ended? We have 2 weeks to see what injury reporting. I know it's Vegas and they got to have odds and numbers out, but it just happened.
Yep. Well, that's why they put it so close. 1.5, first 2.5, and now it's a 1.5-point spread. Niners are favored. Over under set at 47.5. That has not wavered yet. So, I don't know. Should be a good game, to be honest with you. It'd be a nice rematch. We'll see if Shanahan gets his revenge here. But one thing that I will say, we're not going to get too much in the Super Bowl. We have 2 weeks to talk about it, obviously. Andy Reid with a bye week, aka extra week to prepare, is pretty crazy. Actually, quick stat back to Andy Reid. I didn't know this going into the game, but he was 5-0 in the playoffs against anybody that had coached under him, and now 6-0 as John Harbaugh was on the Eagles staff previously. So he has never lost to one of his underlings, I guess you would call it, in the playoffs at all. 6-0 now. Going into this game was 5-0. I wish I would have known that stat. I would have maybe bet a little bit more harder on the freaking Chiefs, but it was a good game. Both good games all around. Even the comeback was really interesting to watch. As much as I wasn't rooting for it to happen, it was still a great comeback. Now everybody, claiming, see, this is why Brock Purdy was the best, and this is why. But why were they in that position? Brock Purdy was was not moving the ball in the first half. So a tale of two halves, and he was remarkable in the second, and that's what led them to the win. But we'll see what he could do in the Super Bowl. See what he could do.
Yeah, big stage going from Mr. Irrelevant to starting in the Super Bowl a couple years later. That's a crazy storyline.
I would say that he is the lowest quarterback to make the Super Bowl, but I saw a little thing today that there's two. One of them I can remember off the top of my head because it's Kurt Warner, and one other one, undrafted quarterbacks who have were starters in a Super Bowl before. So he is basically third lowest. He's the lowest drafted quarterback you could be because no one can be drafted farther than last. So he's the lowest drafted quarterback to ever start in a Super Bowl, but there's been two undrafted quarterbacks who have started in the Super Bowl. So we'll see. We'll see if Shanahan could lead them and lead that offense to the win. But if there's one thing that's kind of crazy, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The one thing that if Jared Goff was able to carve them up, who knows what Patrick Mahomes is going to do? The second part, if Jahmyr Gibbs and that running team, Isaiah Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire are pretty freaking good at running too. So that defense better be studying. But I know that the Chiefs need to also because the Niners are no joke.
Yeah, big time. And I was going to mention, how we talked, they came back from behind and Shanahan's the coach. Shanahan's also the coordinator of when the Falcons were up 28-3 and lost the Super Bowl. So the fact that he was able to have a team come back from 17 down in a conference game and still get to the Super Bowl, I think is a step in the right direction for him and maybe gives him a little more confidence with his play calling coming in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's not 25 and it's not the Super Bowl, but I'll give it to you 100%. Still a nice comeback. Again, we'll have plenty to talk about the actual game coming up at the Super Bowl, but we're going to move on to other NFL notes that we have. Namely, this was a big one to me, to be honest with you. When I saw this, I was pretty impressed with the pickup, just because I had liked what he'd done, and now it's another staffer that you could take from Dallas. Eagles hire Kellen Moore as their new offensive coordinator, trying to kind of fix what had failed in their season after starting 10-1. Jalen Hurts and company, although quite talented, do lose Jason Kelce. But they should be pretty good, and Kellen Moore is very, very creative. Coach Dak Prescott, obviously, in one of his best years, was the offensive coordinator for the Chargers last year, but Herbert got hurt, and that just, I don't know, nothing works for the Chargers really. So I don't really know. What I like the hire in general. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a great hire. And like you said, the fact that he was only in LA with the Chargers for 1 year, he still knows the Cowboys pretty well. So that'll be good for their, in division games and everything. And also, I don't know, like Kellen Moore's now went from Dak Prescott to Herbert to Hurts. So he's been nothing but coordinating really good quarterbacks. And, if Hurts is healthy next year compared to what he looked like in that playoff game against Tampa and, they get their weapons and they'll have AJ Brown still there and everybody else. I mean, the Eagles should be right back into it. And like we talked about before, the NFC East always does not have a repeat winner of the division. So the Cowboys won last year. I would think the Eagles are favored to win it now because the Commanders are completely rebuilding, and the Giants, I don't even know what they're going to do at quarterback.
Danny Dimes, bro. What you mean?
You got DeVito, and then you got whoever they paid. What they paid last summer for what's his name? He's coming back.
Danny Dimes. Dan, what the hell's his name? I can't think.
Know.
Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones. That's
there you go. Yeah, I'd say it's been so long since he played. I forgot who he was.
Right.
But yeah, if you're the Eagles, I think it's a slam dunk hire. And we talked about last episode too. They brought in Vic Fangio to do the defense, so they've brought in new coordinators on both sides of the ball, and you have to hope that that's going to be the change and maybe get that locker room to be a little more happy. Because even though last year they started 10-1, everyone talked about it was the most unhappy team to be 10-1 that they've ever seen.
Some proven names too at the coordinator position, not just somebody who's been in the organization and is now stepping up. Not that I'm against any of those hires, just like Kellen Moore was like the quarterback's coach when under what's the guy
Jason
before
Garrett,
Mike
right?
McCarthy? Yeah, Jason Garrett. He was promoted to offensive coordinator and had one of the best seasons of Dallas's career, especially Dak Prescott's career. So I'm sorry, not Dallas's career. Dak Prescott's career. Dallas has won Super Bowls before. So it's been 30 years, but
a different game.
yeah, exactly. Very different game. So yeah, now they have some proven names with some real experience, especially Kellen Moore in that division. It should serve them well. I'm not necessarily rooting for the Eagles, but I'm not rooting against them either. So it's a good hire, in my opinion. Pretty good hire.
Couldn't be more of a slam dunk, I think, for the Eagles.
More hiring. This one we are going to move back to the defensive side of the ball. Michigan, former Michigan defensive coordinator Jesse Minter is following Mr. Harbaugh to the Chargers. They, need it because as they have all the names, but they don't have the results. So, I know they traded away J.C. Jackson, and Khalil Mack might be on the chopping block because of his large salary, but they have a decent squad. So, hiring or Harbaugh bringing Minter over kind of keeps some continuity with him. He's
Exactly.
obviously very familiar with Jesse Minter, so I think this could be a pretty good pickup. Is this his first stint with the NFL?
Actually, it'll be a second. He was first he had a 4-season run with John Harbaugh's coaching staff in Baltimore, actually from
Oh,
2017
well,
to
that's freaking
2020.
great.
Yeah, so he began as a defensive assistant before being promoted to assistant defensive back coach, and eventually taking over as that fully. So, and last year in Michigan, not only did they win national title, the defense allowed the fewest points, 9.5, and the second fewest
Wow.
yards, under 240 per game in the nation. So he definitely knows what he's doing
Single
now.
digit points?
Yes. Now
Man,
going
I know it's
from
college, but damn.
I was just going to say, going from college to NFL obviously is a transition, but the fact that Harbaugh's done it before will, I think, help him kind of transition a little easier. And it'll be interesting to see, like you mentioned, how the Chargers kind of rebuild that defense based on salary cap situation and what they're under. But it sounds like it's going to be a slam dunk, like you said, continuity with him and Harbaugh, and kind of knowing how Harbaugh wants to run things and have a team or an organization go. So I think it's a perfect hire for them. And Minter, even though he's been coordinating in college, like we said, he's had experience in the pro game before, so it's not going to be a completely foreign thing for him.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm glad that he has some experience because that'll help the Chargers along. Now, granted, obviously he's good at what he does, at least in football terms, but like we just said, college and the NFL are completely different animals. Not that I played in either one, but just from what I've heard from people who have played, obviously, in both. Which is crazy stat that you have here. In the 5 games against ranked opponents this year, the Wolverines only allowed 72 points total. So
Yeah,
those are the best of the best.
Exactly, and that includes Washington in the national title game, who had scored like almost 30 points a game, if not more, and he held them to under 20. So, just doing his job and knowing his personnel, how to use them right. I think if he can do that up in the LA with the Chargers, then they're going to be right back into it defensively. And if Herbert can get going and be healthy, then the offense should be just as good.
I know you have a report here that he looks to be kind of bringing a lot of people that are kind of with him. And Minter, obviously, that we just talked about, and you have Greg Roman on here as his potential offensive coordinator. That was I kind of like that. I think that he was with Baltimore when they were in the early Lamar Jackson days. He was not there this past year. Otherwise, he probably would have run the ball more against the Chiefs, knowing that that's their strong suit. But he also previously worked as the offensive coordinator for the Niners when Harbaugh was their head coach there. And
Exactly.
if he could do that with Colin Kaepernick, no offense to Colin, let's
Yep.
see what he could do with freaking Justin Herbert. So
Absolutely.
I like that report. That's pretty good. And then you also say here that Jay Harbaugh, Jim's son, could be slated as their special teams coordinator. Does he have experience?
I don't think he has much, at least not as far as the NFL game goes. But Jim's brother John, who is in Baltimore, obviously head coaching, he started out as a special teams guy as a coach as well. So the whole family is just football. I mean, the dad was a coach as a coordinator and stuff back in the day. So everything in that family in Harbaugh is football. So I can't imagine, even if he doesn't have the experience compared to other people, he definitely knows what he's thinking and doing out there, and should be able to just kind of continue on with the Harbaugh thing. I mean, Harbaugh's are taking over the NFL at this point.
Why not? It does show that actually had a 2-year stint with the Ravens. So he was doing something with the Ravens, learning from his uncle, and then he's basically been at Michigan or tied to Michigan ever since kind of his dad kind of got there. So it does have some previous. And again, as much as they may have lost this game, the Ravens are a fantastic organization. So having any sort of experience in the NFL, it's the Ravens, or like you said, Greg Roman with the Niners previously under Harbaugh. I think it's a great potential. Obviously, nothing's been completed yet. We'll keep you guys updated probably in the next episode if he starts hiring quickly. But so far, previously defensive coordinator for Michigan Wolverines, Jesse Minter, is following Jim to the Chargers. Exciting news, man. I'm excited to get this coaching staff assembled and see what they want to do here in LA.
Yeah, we should definitely have more info by our next episode because I think that Harbaugh's having his press conference in the next day or two to be announced officially as the Chargers coach. So once that gets going, I think everything else will start getting announced. And obviously, the Lions offensive coordinator is going to interview with Seattle today, and I think Seattle's going to also interview the Ravens defensive coordinator tomorrow. So as more and more head coaching positions get taken, we'll see more and more coordinators getting hired and taken in different spots.
Some of those spots that you're talking about here, the Falcons' new head coach Raheem Morris has basically filled out his staff already. That was fairly quick. We just announced that he got hired, and now everybody's ready to go. His offensive coordinator, Zach Robinson, is the former Rams quarterback coach for the past 2 years. That doesn't hurt. Again, another McVay protege coming over and taking over. Again, learning from Matt Stafford, being around those guys, being under Sean McVay is only beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. And the joke is, I think when Wade Phillips came over as the defensive coordinator the first year that McVay was coaching the Rams, because obviously as a 30-year-old, they wanted to have some kind of a veteran coach there be around. And he said something about his own son, Phillips' own son was like, oh, he's available if anybody wants to hire him. I mean, he did have dinner with McVay, so he definitely knows his
team.
Yeah. That's
the
like
thing,
the joke.
dude. That's basically what got like Cliff Kingsbury hired for the Cardinals when he took that job. It's like, oh, he talked to McVay. I remember that off season where it's like, as long as you've maybe served him coffee or had dinner with him or saw him passing by in the store, then you're connected and you were hired. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
defensive coordinator.
I think I was going to say part of it is Raheem's bringing somebody with him that he's worked with in LA the last couple of years. So again, continuity as far as what they want to do. And since Raheem is the defensive coordinator the last few years and is going to focus more on that side of the ball, I think bringing Zach Robinson over, who's been on the offensive side, is just something that makes sense.
Very, very smart. Again, if you like what you're doing, and it obviously was very successful in LA, didn't go as far as they would this year, but again, they had like the second or the youngest squad in the NFL. Yeah. But sticking with that continuity, the defensive coordinator now, Jimmy Lake, was a former UW coach and was the LA Rams assistant coach last year. So more Rams coaches getting taken. Raheem Morris is building his little mini Rams staff over in Atlanta. I like that pull too, man.
Again, continuity and knowing what's expected of you, especially on the same side of the ball as Raheem Morris, who was the defensive coordinator last year. Again, makes a lot of sense. Although he didn't have the greatest run in Washington for the 2 years he was there before DeBoer took over, but at that point, Washington was in a rebuild and wasn't really doing much compared to what they did the last few years under DeBoer. And I mean, if you're going to the Falcons, which is a very young team as it is anyway. So if the fact that you're able to turn the Rams, who, like you talked about, were one of, if not the youngest teams as far as average age, to be able to do what they did on the defensive side, I think that bodes well for the Falcons moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's a great look, man. Super excited for it. I'm excited to see new people get opportunities, and I want them to be. I mean, I got no dog in the fight in the Atlanta Falcons, but I like seeing up and coming people be successful. So hopefully he can start something big over in Atlanta.
Yeah, and we talked about it before a couple of weeks ago that even though Atlanta didn't make the playoffs this year and ended 7-10, their defense was kind of in the middle of the pack, even though they didn't know have a lot of talent or have the best coaching. But now you bring in somebody who knows what they're doing on that side of the ball as the coordinator and the head coach. I think, again, it just bodes well for Atlanta being able to move forward with a young squad and hopefully build on something as long as they find a quarterback on that side of the ball.
Yeah, that's really where it kind of comes down to is finding a quarterback on that side of the ball. Because again, it's hard to do anything in this league when you don't have one. Their overall defensive grading, according to PFF, was 12th, which is actually one better than the Chiefs were. So not bad actually to be up there. They have some really good run defense. Actually, they're second in run defense. Yeah, true. But run defense is not easy to come by in the NFC South. They got the Saints, Alvin Kamara to kind of deal with. They know how to run the ball. I forgot who the heck else is in this damn division.
Rashad White's on the Buccaneers, who was a young.
Oh yeah. They knew how to run the ball. And the last team,
I don't know who Carolina has at running back, if I'm being honest.
Christian McCaffrey. Oh wait, no, he's not.
No, he'll be in the Super Bowl for the Niners now. Sorry,
they have Chuba Hubbard. That's their starting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
who's not terrible. So
yeah, but they're
second in the league. Yes, true. Overall offense is correct. The special teams coordinator is Marquise Williams. Who I guess he's retaining him. He's been the special teams coordinator for the Falcons for the past 3 years. Don't see anything wrong with that. Was their special teams grade? Never mind. 30th in the league. So
Well, I was gonna say, I
we'll
don't
see.
think that at that point it's more of the grade. It's more of having at least somebody who was in the locker room before, because a lot of the players are going to be back there. Just have somebody that kind of knows the ties to the organization and the players and how they kind of react to things. It's nice to have some kind of inside info in a sense going into the locker room.
I can see that. That makes sense. Keep some continuity instead of just bringing all of your own.
Exactly. Like, I think I even heard he might have kept even 3 or 4 other coaching staff members from Falcons last year moving into this year. So again, having some kind of continuity for the players and rapport that they already know what to expect from certain coaches, and then just having the new head coach and coordinators at the top, I think makes a lot of sense.
I couldn't agree more. Exciting to see. I know that football season isn't even technically over this year, but I'm already excited for next year, especially for these Chargers, man. They need to freaking get out of the damn basement. There's way too much going on in LA. Colin Cowherd talks about it all the time. Rams just won the Super Bowl, have Sean McVay, superstar quarterback. Lakers, as much as they suck, draw a crowd, if not one of the favorite teams here. Clippers are up and coming, doing crazy stuff on that side. What, 22-4, or maybe even more now recently in their since December, since basically the James Harden trade. Well, after their first 5 losses, the freaking Dodgers spending billions of dollars on Ohtani and everything. USC with Lincoln Riley, UCLA, even though they're not, great, they still have Chip Kelly. There's a lot of stuff going on here in LA. And then if you feel like throwing in the Kings, who are doing okay, although they're on slight of a slip right now, which is happy.
Don't worry.
Makes me happy. Yep. But there's just so much going on in LA. You can't not keep up. And getting Jim Harbaugh to pair with your franchise quarterback and Justin Herbert, I'm just excited to see all the things that happen. So hopefully by the next episode we can have a couple more updates on maybe the finishing out of Harbaugh's staff, and maybe we can actually get an idea of if the Commanders are going to take Ben Johnson, or if the Seahawks kind of steal him, because I know that one of the biggest things was he's been slated basically shoe-in for the Commanders head coaching job. Now that the Lions are obviously out of it, unfortunately. There might be some big hires this week. Big hires.
Yeah, and if I'm Ben Johnson, I got to really think about that Commanders when you have a chance to draft the quarterback that you want to build your offense around. You have new ownership that's willing to spend money and try to actually improve the organization, because like we talked about, Magic Johnson involved, and everything he touches turns to gold. So it's a good opportunity there if you're Ben Johnson. Now Seattle's not a terrible opportunity because they're kind of a win now compared to the Commanders, but I think if you're that young and you want to build something and really have a say in who runs your offense, I think the Commanders position makes a lot more sense for him.
Yeah, like I said before, I think it was the Chargers gig and then the Commanders gig, in my opinion, that were the 2 best. So we shall see if those get filled out this week. Moving on, out of football. We're going to be talking about that a lot over the next couple of days, or a couple episodes, because obviously leading up to the Super Bowl, be a lot going on. But we're going to move on to some NBA things that have been going on. Nothing too crazy. But one of the biggest stories, especially in the NBA, is Adam Silver signing a commission, and basically through the end of the decade, signing an extension, to be the commissioner for the end of the decade. I guess, right? I mean, he's not doing bad, but...
ever since he's taken over, the league continues to make more and more money. They're going to have...
That's about it.
He's been under control since 2014 after David Stern kind of gave him the opportunity to take over, and the new TV rights deals are coming up here in a year or two, and that's just going to be more money printing because of the streaming services getting involved. And everything that he does since he's taken over the league. I mean, one of the biggest things he had to do when he first took over initially was get rid of Sterling and that whole situation that happened with the
that
Clippers
he did good.
So doing some really good things, and again, the league continues to grow. Now we could get some defensive rules changed, so there's not.
That's
like
the only thing I was going to say.
Game. I'd be cool with that, but I don't know if that's ultimately up to him. The NBA PA's got to get involved. I'm sure the referees union has to get involved for all that kind of stuff. But
the rules committee, obviously, because they're the ones who come up with don't touch anybody and it's a foul.
Let everybody score 70 points a game now and don't care about it.
Yeah. Each individual person. He doesn't mean teams, guys. He means people. Yeah. So I agree. I think he's done more good than bad. Even more, even generating and thinking of this in-season tournament, which is, again, more money for the league, more TV for the league, more sponsorship for the league. So I think he's done more good than bad. I think my only gripe is that it's getting out of hand. The offense is getting out of hand. I know people like to see scoring, but it's just ridiculous. I don't know what else to say besides it's getting out of hand.
The other thing that is getting out of hand and needs to be fixed or either taken out or figured out is the replay situation. There's way too many replays, and the fact that they have to have Secaucus people buzz them in the stadium that they're playing at and let them know, like, hey, you need to look at this, or here's what the call is because you guys got it wrong. Like, the game just has so many moments of or times of momentum that get just completely stopped and dead because they have to look at a review of this or a review of that. And it's like, either get it situated so it's quick or we just don't do it at all. Because my thing, especially with the replay, and this is every sport across the board, why, especially in hockey, another one, why does the play get called and then they go to review it and they give the referee a tablet this big, like, hey, can you look at this thing this big, like really close, and see if you can tell what happened? Can we just have, like, each stadium should have its own small war room within the stadium, and there's an extra ref up there.
Yep.
And that person's entire job is to just have TVs around. As soon as there's a call that they don't know or have a question of from the field, the ice, or whatever surface we're playing from, they look up to that person. That person says, this is the correct call, change it, and let's go and keep moving. I don't know why the refs have to go over, put on a headset, watch the replay, and, like, determine what happened. Why do they have to be the ones that on the court or on the field have to go look at the replay and then change it? Just have another referee as the backup or third, like, in case one ref gets hurt, you always have a backup extra referee anyway. They can be in the room upstairs and just watch all the replay and tell them with, like, a quick, like, look. It doesn't, I mean, we watch replays from home and within 5 seconds, if not 10,
yeah,
that's
that's
definitely a foul. Oh, it's definitely a flagrant. It's definitely not. Like, why does it take them 45 minutes to figure out what I can figure out in 10 seconds? It just is so frustrating.
It makes no sense. To your point of having that person up in the thing, it'd be great to have that, because a lot of times refs know which calls are controversial, which ones are like borderline. They could start reviewing it before the coach even hits the button to hit the green light and stuff like that. They can already be reviewing it and, like you said, quickly come up with an answer, instead of getting 3 people around a 1994 Toshiba monitor with some freaking headsets looking like, okay, can you back up? Wait, how much time was on the clock?
To, like, replay and slow down and go back and forth. Like, just have somebody focus on only that, because one, these referees in basketball or hockey are running up and down, skating up and down. They're, out of breath when they go to look at this replay, and not only that, if they're the one that made the call, why would they not want to look in their own best interest and stay with the same call? Because they're the ones that made it and don't want to look like they're wrong.
Always do.
Have a third party, in a sense, that has nothing to do with the call on the ice that was made initially. Make the call and review and make it right, and then let's just keep on moving. I don't get it. It's not that hard to think of this stuff, guys. What is the problem?
No. And to your point, I almost never, if anybody ever challenges a foul, I almost never see it overturned, because to your point, they don't want to be wrong. Well, if you're wrong, you're wrong. It is what it is. Get over it. The one point that I think, or the one sport that I think does it well, or at least somewhat quickly, is baseball. Although, to your point, it's somebody else so who knows where coming up
somewhere else.
Yeah, just coming up with so that maybe takes a little bit, but they do just kind of sit there, maybe 30 to 45 seconds, wait to hear. Okay, this is what the call is. Yep, safe. Yep, no, out. Yep, whatever. Yes, home run, no home run. That one's somewhat quicker and less controversial of the up going and looking at a tablet or like a random screen, like you said. But they need to kind of sort that out. So defense and replay reviews. Other than that, Adam Silver, I think you're doing a fantastic job. And that was a really good point, because I kind of forgot about the Clippers owner. That was a really difficult situation, basically right when he kind of took over. And it was handled perfectly. They got it to one of the richest people in the world, and obviously now the richest person in the NBA. So able to kind of turn that around and get rid of that just very dark, and I don't mean that in a racial way, the dark cloud that hung over the Clippers there. So there's just plenty of clouds that hang over the Clippers already. They don't need that one there.
Yep, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Speaking of change, this one is not necessarily a change in ownership, but a change that we previously spoke about. Doc Rivers obviously has taken over the Bucks job. But he had a really interesting quote the other day when discussing this. And this is what I don't get it, dude. What are you trying to say here? His quote was basically, he doesn't, quote, wish this position on anybody. You mean the position that you just took away from somebody else and gave to yourself? What do you mean you don't want to coach Giannis and Dame? What do you think he even means by this?
The only thing I can think of is the fact that it's middle of the season and he wasn't on the coaching staff already and taking over as an interim. Like, they gave him a new contract. It's for multiple years. He's not just taking over for the rest of the season to see what happens. But again, you're the one that agreed to do this. You didn't have to do this. Nobody forced you to take this position and leave your cushy job on the sideline calling games with
Next
Green
to
and Doris Burke. Like I don't understand, but Doc just is so frustrating as like a fan of basketball in the first place because like we've talked about before when he got hired the other day, he milks that 2008 championship with the Celtics more than I think anybody. He's got to have like the best agent and representation because anytime some kind of head coaching position comes up that's like a decent roster, Doc's like the first name that gets in and mentioned and brought up. Like, oh well, they can bring in Doc. He's won a title before. Yeah, with 4 future Hall of Famers, and it
Yeah.
took him against a Laker team that won, like we talked about, had no Andrew Bynum for the whole series, and had lost Trevor Ariza during that finals early on. And it still took them 6 games to do it. It's not like they walked all over them in 4 games and
Nope.
made it look easy. They struggled against the Atlanta Hawks in the first round and had to go 7 games that year as well. So again, I don't get Doc at all. And as Laffy said earlier, what did he call him? Coach Throat Lozenges?
Yeah, throat lozenge. Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, I don't understand how his voice never heals. Is he just constantly yelling, or I mean, I guess is he just a really bad smoker? I don't think he was ever
Well,
a
I
smoker.
mean, if
I
you're
don't know.
coaching and nobody's listening to you because they obviously don't, it's not working. Maybe you are yelling all the time,
You
and
should
that's
just
part
keep
of the
yelling,
problem.
right? We go in depth about this Doc Rivers hire. Go check out our previous episode. It's just after we talk about the NFL. You could hear a lot of the negative stats. I'll throw one out there. Lost 10 game sevens. That's not great, bro. That's not somebody I want leading my championship contending organization because when it comes down to it, you're probably taking the L. But again, go check out our previous episode to hear more statistics on Doc Rivers' success, lack of success. That's for sure. But yeah, I thought that was just a weird quote. Why did you? So you don't wish it, but you kicked the other guy out of it and took it yourself, but you don't wish that position. Why did you even kick the other guy? I don't know. It's just super confusing. We'll see how this kind of goes from here. But I like Giannis, so I'm not wishing them to do bad. But apparently, he's not wishing his position on anybody.
Yeah, I get lost and confused with him all the time, so I've kind of given up on even trying to figure out what he's talking about or what he's trying to do.
Yeah, 100%. Great game though this previous weekend. What was the Saturday?
Man. Yeah, Saturday night. Whew.
Lakers Warriors, not necessarily some of the most contending teams right now. They are towards the bottom of the Western Conference. But when you have 2 greats like LeBron James and Steph Curry, you definitely tune in on prime time, especially it being on ABC for their first matchup this season. Honestly, we're 40 plus games into the season, damn near around the corner from an All-Star break, and this is the first time they're playing the Warriors, which means we got 3 more in the short second half. So it'll be exciting to see. This previous one again, a double overtime game. Lakers won by 1 by LeBron sinking 2 clutch free throws. I'm not gonna lie, bro. I was watching the game. I'm pretty sure he was gonna miss one. I sat there like, okay, we're gonna go tied. This is going triple freaking overtime, and this is gonna be really annoying. But he sunk them both. One stat, and then I'll get to you. LeBron James and Steph Curry became the first pair of athletes over 35 to score 35 or more in the same game. I thought that was quite interesting.
Dude, this game felt like a playoff game. The back and forth. I mean, the Lakers were up early, then they kind of fell apart. Then they got the lead at half, and then the third quarter, which the Warriors are famous for under Steve Kerr, they just came out and blitzed them and took a big lead. AD gets hit and goes away for a little bit, and you're like, okay, well, AD's not coming back, so I guess that's the end of that. Somehow he comes back and ends up actually making a difference in the late fourth and both overtimes. And you figure like the Lakers have this done at the end of regulation, and then the Warriors make this crazy run to tie it, and we force the overtime. You get to the end of overtime, the Lakers have a lead, and then Steph hits a 3 to tie it with no time on the clock or very little, double, and then the Klay Thompson one. I mean, it's just constant back and forth. It honestly felt like the Warriors and Cavs in the finals back in the day, the first time before KD got there and took over and made the Warriors the juggernaut they were. But man, it was like I wasn't stressed necessarily because I know it's a regular season game, but it just had that anticipation. The crowd at Chase Center was being their normal loud self, and it just Steph and his magic, man. It's kind of like Mahomes, man. You can't count him out until the clock says 0 and he officially lost the game.
Agree. And he was pissed. You see him rip his jersey afterwards. He was not happy to lose that game. I mean, nobody's happy to lose any game, but his team is just not going where he is used to. Quick on that Oracle. Wow. Chase Center crowd. It's funny because I watched a handful of Laker games. It's one of the only games I watch unless there's an interesting matchup on TV. And then we got celebrity. We got all of the people out there. Man, you go to the war, it's just a bunch of nerdy tech people. I mean, I know they run the world and they're very rich, but it's just funny to see their crowd. They're all awkwardly dancing and they just like have no rhythm because they're used to being on a computer. And it's just funny to kind of see all of Silicon Valley up at the Chase Center because that's where the cash is at. But it was a great game nonetheless.
Crazy game.
Yep. Not much going on in the NBA, especially middle of the season. We do have the NBA trade deadline coming up next Thursday, not this Thursday, but next Thursday, February 8th. A lot of stuff is supposed to hit the fan. There's been a lot of talks about Laker trades. There's been a lot of talks about the Knicks gearing up more, maybe the Thunder adding to their team because they're obviously doing pretty well. Obviously the Clippers can't really do much. They've already made their trade. They pretty much have no more assets to spend, and honestly,
And can't do any
well
buyouts.
anyways.
It's probably for the most part. After we talked about that the other day about Lowry.
Yeah, very true, very true. So, but we hopefully have some exciting news coming up. So stay tuned. We'll keep everybody updated on what happened and our thoughts on them. Right now, though, one of the biggest things is building for the Olympic roster. So what Corey and I did, I think we touched on it maybe last time, is we want to, there's 41 names, one of them not being Draymond, for what Grant Hill says, because of what had happened in his suspension. So we took the 41 names, and what I'll do is I'll link the NBC Sports article that we used that has all of them, so you can see all 41 of the names that are on there. And Corey and I kind of went through and put together our own 12-man roster. We have a lot of similarities because obviously some of the best players in the league are what they are, but we have some differences as well. I say we cover some of the similarities, and then we go over what our differences are. How about that?
That sounds like a good plan.
So one of the main ones that we have here is obviously LeBron James. LeBron James is going to be a starter on this Olympic squad. He is arguably the best player.
I'm sure.
Yes, yeah. Another 4 more years, dude's gonna be 44 years old, so 43 years old. So I don't really know how that's gonna happen. But trying one more time in Paris to try to get this gold medal. So we got LeBron James. We both have Joel Embiid. We need a center, and he is arguably the best that is an American or claiming American citizenship, which I'm happy for. I think you looked it up the other day. He's from Cameroon, right?
Cameroon, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they have a team that's really competing for anything. So I believe the quote that he kind of had on why he chose this is because America has basically given him the opportunity to do everything that he's been able to do, both in basketball and then obviously financially as well with the basketball that comes with it. So, he wants to kind of show pride and pay homage to America by playing for them. From there, we have Kevin Durant. Really, nothing me to say there. Yep. Steph Curry, another kind of duh. Anthony Davis. No real arguments here. Jason Tatum, arguably the best player in the league. Anthony Edwards just showed out for Team USA and has been balling. Bro, can we maybe show, let's see, do we have that replay? I think we have a replay of that putback that he had the other night.
Yeah.
Sheesh. Let's show this real quick and then we'll continue.
Laser pass, McDaniels, no. Oh, goodness! Climbs the ladder to the rim, escalator style. Anthony Edwards to 20. We've got bats flying around. We got Pop cursing in the microphone. Anthony Edwards dropped out of the ceiling. Unbelievable play by Anthony Edwards.
Oh my
Man, we
goodness.
are lucky to see this kid play night in and night out, Michael Grady.
Dude's insane, bro. Oh my gosh. And he's got shot too. Yeah.
So high off the
He's
bat.
so
I
good.
don't even know what to say anymore. That guy just keeps doing crazy shit.
Yeah, he's so good. And the last person that we are both unanimous on is De'Aaron Fox, arguably the fastest guard in the league. Got shot, got handled, can drive, and can pass. So we kind of have De'Aaron Fox. So that was 8 of the 12. We each also have some of our own honorable mentions, but we are going to dive into now our differences. So those are the 8 similar that we had. And I'll go first. Let me dive into the other 4. The first one that I have, actually the first 2 that I have are teammates. I think they're arguably some of the best forwards in the league as much as I don't like them. I like them, maybe not their team.
Yeah.
And one of them is one of the best defenders as long as he's healthy in the game. So I have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. I feel like the game is very forward heavy, and the more the merrier, in my opinion.
Very true.
Moving on, one of the guards I have is Tyrese Halliburton. Dude is balling out like crazy, setting records for assists and lack of turnovers on one of the best offensive teams in the league. He may not play defense too much, but he is definitely an offensive, in my opinion, juggernaut. So having him at a guard position would be fantastic, along with Anthony Edwards, De'Aaron Fox, and Steph Curry. And the last one I have here, and I have him on here for a handful of reasons, but mostly because of some defense, and he can shoot the three. He also played for the U.S. team in the most recent FIBA tournament, Jaren Jackson Jr.
Good pick.
So those are the four that I would add to it, and really it's because we're gonna need some height. Joel can't play the entire game, and we know that Anthony Davis is a little brittle and thin. So having another big dude who can block shots but can also step away from the rim and shoot threes, and Jaren Jackson, that's kind of why I threw him in there. Plus, he already had the experience on Team USA. Did great with Anthony Edwards for the FIBA tourney. So kind of having him back out on the court is something that I would consider very helpful. I do have two honorable mentions, and then we'll get to yours. Is that cool?
Yeah, of course.
The two that I was kind of torn on that we could throw on here because I think they're great would be Drew Holiday, one of the best defensive guards. That's why I think maybe I would maybe switch him out with somebody. But it's hard to take Steph Curry, De'Aaron Fox, or Anthony Edwards out. So maybe this would be the Tyrese Halliburton switch. And then other than that would be Jimmy Butler. But Jimmy Butler just has that knack. But if we have other defensive forwards like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and Jason Tatum's quick, he can get in front of people. Kevin Durant's one of the best defensive forwards the game's seen, especially for a tall, thin guy. Those are my two honorable mentions in Drew Holiday and Jimmy Butler.
Yeah,
Let me know.
I like the four you have. The only reason I no argument because of their accolades makes sense. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are great. I just don't know if they can't usually make it through a whole NBA season, and so far they both have. And if they end up making a playoff run that goes deep and then have to go to the Olympics right after, I don't know if they'll physically be able to do it. So that's kind of the reason I kind of counted them out, especially Kawhi. He's so not of the norm compared to most of these players that I feel like he'd be like, yeah, I don't want to go to Paris. I'm good. I'm just going to chill at home in San Diego. So I can see that.
I'm just saying who I want on my team.
No, I get you. Those are the only reasons that those two I'm like, I probably wouldn't have them in there just because I don't know if they'll be healthy or want to put their bodies through that on top of a playoff run that they're about to go into as well. Because like we talked about before, they're good now as the Clippers, but until they get to the playoffs and they, again, like AD essentially play a whole season and are healthy when it comes to that time, that's when we really see if they're actually worth it or not.
Yeah, I see. Okay, so who are your four? And then throw me some honorable mentions that you've got.
So my four, and one of them actually is one of your honorable mentions, is Drew Holiday. I think that when it comes to the international game in the Olympics, the defense is going to be more important than it is in the NBA because it's a little more actually allowed to be played, and there's some different rules as far as how they go. And I think defense travels well when you're putting a team together of guys that don't get to play a lot together before the tournament even gets started. I feel like the offenses usually takes a little longer to get situated and figured out. So to have a guard at the top who can play some really good defense, because Steph is not going to be playing defense that well.
Nope.
Anthony Edwards is pretty decent at defense, and De'Aaron Fox is okay, but I think having somebody who can actually slow down a guard at the top on the other side of the ball for the other countries, I think is a big part of it. So that's the only reason I had him there and not in my honorable mentions like you did. The other one is instead of having Jaren Jackson Jr., I actually had Bam Adebayo because I think he plays defense. That's like a big thing. You have to have a big that can play D, and if AD is there and Embiid's there, somebody else is going to have to play center and be a big and play defense. And I think Bam does a really good job playing in Miami with that Heat culture. It's kind of all they're about is team, and I think that would translate well into the Olympic team as well.
Before you go, my only counter to that is Jaren Jackson Jr. just won Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, but so has Rudy Gobert 3 times, and that doesn't matter.
Yeah, but he's French, so we can't have him on our team.
Oh, no, I know what I'm saying, but it doesn't matter when it comes to important games in the playoffs. Rudy Gobert defense tends to disappear, and Jaren Jackson Jr. last year in the playoffs against the Lakers didn't seem to be that good either when against AD. So
What is Bam? Bam got owned by freaking, what's his name?
Jokic? Well, yeah, of course.
Yes.
Jokic is like the best center in the NBA, if not the world.
We're going to have to play him.
Totally okay with that. Well, maybe we'll see what Serbia does. And then another one is another one of your honorable mentions, which is Jimmy Butler. I think he's just got that grit and grind, and when it comes to important games, he's the guy you want on the court. And I think him in that 3 position with LeBron at the 4 possibly could just be something that would be really dangerous for the USA team. And I just can't count that guy out until somebody tells me he's not going to be able to play.
True.
And then my last one is actually kind of random, not on your honorable mentions list at all either or anything, is Mikal Bridges from Brooklyn. I think that having some
More
youth
defense,
like Anthony Edwards and him and Tatum would be good for this team because obviously we have a lot of veteran guys on this roster. And I think that having a younger guy to play the 3 position who has never missed a game in his high school, college, or NBA career would be nice to have somebody who knows you can count on him and be there every game. And again, he's on a team in Brooklyn that's not very good, but they're very young and trying to figure things out. He's very team oriented. And I think come, Olympic time, when you're putting a roster together last minute and they don't have a lot of time to get together and gel, that somebody like that is a nice piece to have. So,
yeah, great point.
And then
so
my
honorable mentions, who you got?
One of them is Tyrese Halliburton, who you have on your roster. It's again, he doesn't play defense, and I think in the Olympics that's going to be more important than him having to run the offense. When in my team I have Drew Holiday, who can play defense at the top, and let's see, LeBron's a forward, but he's probably going to run the offense as a guard essentially, and Anthony Edwards, and then De'Aaron Fox would be the point guard running things too as well. So that's why I have him on my honorable mentions. The other one, and again, this is more for a youth factor, is I really debated Scotty Barnes. He's really good up in Toronto. And I think because he's a guard forward kind of in between, that he would be really good on this roster. But I honestly, I went back and forth between him and Mikal Bridges. But I think, again, Bridges is a little bit bigger and is much more dependable and hasn't missed any games in his entire career going back to high school, like I mentioned. So that was the only reason I kept him out. But he definitely was on my list of maybes there at the bottom.
I like that. I would probably, now that I'm thinking about it, I would take Tyrese Halliburton on and immediately replace him for Drew Holiday or Mikal Bridges because I could see the defense at the guard position at least. I do think Jaren Jackson is good because the one thing that he can do, Bam is only really a lob threat, maybe a hook shot, and then in defense, Jaren Jackson can pull, and the three point is huge in basketball in general. So the fact that he can kind of shoot those at a higher clip, well, actually, Bam doesn't shoot them at all, really, would be helpful. But I super agree with the Drew Holiday, Mikal Bridges. I like those two. Even though people probably, like you said, wouldn't even think about Mikal, I do like that. He was one of the reasons why the Suns were so good in that deep run because he could play opposite of Chris Paul and take on the best guard. So.
And he also did play in the FIBA tournament last year with Anthony Edwards and a couple of these other guys you mentioned. So he already kind of knows the coaching staff and what they're expecting of him. I think he would be an easier kind of blend into that roster. Yeah,
no, all right. I'm immediately at least taking Halliburton off and putting him down to the honorable mention. So I like that. No, that's good. Not necessarily an NBA note, but one more NCAA note. I know we covered it not too long ago when we had a coach for the Texas Longhorns. This was 2 episodes ago, episode number 46. Go ahead and check that out. We talk about him talking to UCF players after UCF beat Texas in a basketball game, and they were walking around doing the horns down symbol, and how he thought that was classless. He did later kind of take it back a little bit, so I'll give him, 0.1 credit. But another thing kind of happened. This wasn't necessarily Texas asking them to do it, but when Texas went to BYU recently, there was a section in the student section. There was 9 students that lined up and had one letter on their shirt painted of each of the phrase "horns down," HORNS, all the way down the line. And the BYU staff asked them to take their shirts off because they didn't want to be disrespectful to Texas.
The dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Like, one, it's the student section. That's what they're there for, is to cause and create havoc. And, I mean, we talked about
chaos.
Prepping. Yes, ASU has like the crazy student section where they have this curtain, and when they open it, there's like somebody faking like they're giving birth and all these weird, crazy things because they're
the free throws and stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're college kids having fun. And it's not like the shirt says anything derogatory or anything like that. And the fact that Texas wasn't, well, at least that we know of as now, Texas wasn't the one that asked them to make them take it off or anything. I just think it's dumb. It's not a derogatory saying. It's not putting anybody down, although the word down is in there, I guess. But it's literally horns down. Who cares? Why is this such a big deal? And why is Texas the only team in college that has this issue, or it comes up where their saying of horns, of just having horns up, becomes an issue to say horns down? No other school has had any other issues with this or anything like it. I just don't get it. And I don't know why BYU made their own students take it down when it was just a shirt that say horns down. Like, who cares?
It's ridiculous. Kind of back to what we were talking about with Travis Kelce and Mahomes with Justin Tucker. It's just gamesmanship, man. And like you said, there's a bunch of freaking college kids, especially at BYU and Utah, bro. This is like the most fun that they could possibly have. Let them wear some shirts that say horns down. You know what I mean? Like, My goodness. The sensitivity to the horns down thing is honestly out of control. I don't get it. And I love it. Horns down all the way. Not a fan of Texas. And this makes me even less of a fan of Texas that they cry about their, but
Yeah.
we've put a horns up, you can't do horns. Oh my gosh, dude. Get over yourself.
For real. And the fact that they're going to the SEC next year, like, good luck. The SEC fans are crazy. And there's
Yeah.
probably going to be a lot of horns down. And we already talked about it before, how football, when they were in the Big 12, basically said if anybody did horns down on the field towards another player, they were going to do it like a penalty for 15 yards. They already said in the SEC, we're not going to do that. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Let
They
them
gave
say
them,
horns
instead of they
down.
gave them a horn downs, they gave them the middle finger.
Is that allowed? Is it okay to flip them off instead of the horns
Yeah.
down? Is that what it
Yeah,
comes
it's
to?
better. Yeah, it's better.
God,
Corey. Okay.
so ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. So wanted to throw that in there again. Not necessarily an NBA note, but I couldn't believe what I saw the other day when I was scrolling through. I was like, they really couldn't stand horns down that much. Oh my gosh, it's something else. If you have that much going on in your life, man, seek help.
Yeah, for real. Which, you led me right into the next segment. Obviously, we talked
sir.
about this last week. We have a little small segment we're going to do every couple episodes, and this is another segment of that, of Corey's Mental Health Minute. So I just wanted to share a little quote with you guys, and then a website as well. And then I have a little story actually that I found today about a NHL player that kind of goes into this topic. The quote this week is going to be, "Your struggles do not define you." And, just want to let you know that no matter what you're going through as far as in your head, and whether you're doing it by yourself or getting help with other people, it doesn't have to define you. You can try to work through it and figure yourself out. And if you want to look into more information, you can check out betterhelp.com. And the story that I found today, which came out from the NHL, is...
I'm sorry, I don't mean to
Yeah, go
interrupt you. I've actually used that website myself. I don't know if
nice.
you have, but I've actually used that website myself. It's fantastic. I've used it twice. So I think it's great. I just wanted to kind of note that I've used it myself.
Nice. I actually haven't used that one myself. I've been doing therapy through Teledoc through the phone instead, but I just wanted to give more information for people if they are too afraid to ask or have people look into it for them, that at least you have an opportunity to look into yourself and try to get an idea, because we should be able to talk about all these kinds of things and let it be
100%.
more of a normal thing. So,
and if you don't have cool friends like me and Corey to talk to, go find
then
somebody.
you got to find somebody else who can.
Yeah.
And the story that came out today is Patrick Laine from the Columbus Blue Jackets has actually entered the NHLPA Player Assistance Program, which the league and the union put together a few years ago to help these players, which we talked about earlier in the year for the NHL. Corey Perry took some time away from the Chicago Blackhawks because it turned out to be an alcohol issue. So he went into the same program because they do different things depending on what you're going through. Laine will be away from the team indefinitely until he receives care through this joint program. He has been out, I think, the last 18 or so games, so it's not like he's been playing necessarily, but it'll completely take him away from the team and practices and let him focus on what he needs to focus on. He explained in a social media post that, thanking the team, the league, and the fans for understanding and their support. Says he looks to return to the ice with a clear mind and a renewed energy at some point in time. His quote also was, "After careful consideration and discussion with my support network and the team, I've recognized the importance of prioritizing my mental health and well-being. Hockey has been my passion in my life, but I have to come to realize that in order to perform at my best, I need to take this time to focus on myself." So there has been other times.
25-year-old.
Absolutely. And there's been other times in his career, actually, even though it's been a very short period of time. He's only been in the league, I think, 6 or 7 years. He's had other times before where they mentioned, I think a few years ago when he was still in Winnipeg, actually, that one of the things is he was playing video games way too much, and it was taking way too much of his time and really just getting him away from hockey. So that was something he also acknowledged before and tried to work through. So, and not only that, he's the third player to take a leave of absence for the mental health issue this year. He joins Colorado's Samuel Girard, and who did in November, who took some time off, and actually another Avalanche player, Valerie. I'm going to mess this name up if I don't say it right. I'm sorry, Nishushkin, if that's how you say it. So it's being more and more normalized for these players in the NHL to take advantage of these programs and work on what they need to work on as far as their mental health and get them in a better spot. Because at the end of the day, they're athletes and we all love them and root for them. But again, at the end of the day, they are humans and need to take care of themselves more than anything else.
Amen, brother. Amen. Thank you. That was a pretty good one. I like that. I like that we got a quote and a nice, cool little story where it's like in application, especially from, obviously we cover sports. So the fact that it's from sports makes it all the better for sure.
For sure. Exactly.
We're actually going to kind of keep it with NHL since you left us there. Got a couple notes that are going on, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the All-Star weekend that's coming up. The NHL matches the NBA sort of. They have the same amount of games, and the NHL season starts a couple weeks before, but they're basically almost on the same timeline when it comes to these sorts of things, especially when it comes to the All-Star game. So, being that the All-Star game is coming up for the NBA, the NHL one is here. So, before we get to that, though. One of our first episodes of the NHL season, Corey was able to kind of bring up a team that was really struggling, had been losing their freaking face every single week. But oh my gosh, have they turned it around? They
Big
don't
time.
have any more games before the All-Star break, but the Edmonton Oilers are on a 16-game win streak and now sit at third in the Pacific Division after a horrendous start. Props to them on this change. You kind of talked to me about it a little bit. What did you think kind of drove it?
Well, a big part of it was like you said, we talked about it previously back in, I think, early November, mid-November, how they had just been playing terrible. They ended up firing their coach, and the interim guy has taken over since then. Usually when you get a coach fired, there's like, as I think the NFL has talked about, there's that dead coach bounce where you have a couple good games and, you feel a little better and a little different, like the Raiders had when Antonio Pierce took over in the middle of the season. But they have continued to just tear. I think they've had a couple shutouts with their goalie situation in years past is usually what's ended up kind of hurting them. They've had some shutouts. They are just, they are on a tear. Like you said, 16-game winning streak. I think it's like, I want to say third or fourth longest streak, if not about to tie it soon, because they just passed for Canadian teams, I think a couple games ago, over 13. So they just continue to roll. It helps that McDavid is, one of the faces of the league in the NHL. And it's good to see the Oilers win, as much as I don't like to see them win because a Ducks fan, but we're not winning anything. So I guess it'd be nice to see McDavid and the Oilers kind of take care of business and turn things around and, again, be a face of the league and continue to go from there.
And one of the teams that they've surpassed or are coming up on I think they've surpassed in the standings now, are the LA Kings, our arch rival, who we love to see lose. They started off the season extremely hot, and then now are basically on the opposite end of that. They've lost 13 of their last 15. They have one more game in Nashville before the All-Star break. So, that ends their 4-game road trip, but it's been rough for them, and I love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. The Oilers and them have basically swapped spots, and now the Oilers, like you said, are in the division in third. The Kings are kind of fighting for a wild card spot, and I think 2 or 3 games ago, might have been before they went on the road, actually, might have been their home game. They were up 3-1 after the first period, and then they ended up losing 5-3. And the post-game press conference where the really like, something's wrong kind of came up to me, or the flag kind of came up. Their coach said that they played stupidly, which that's not good if your coach is saying that. And then Drew Doughty, who's their assistant captain, has been on the team a long time and has been
forever.
Was there when they won their 2 cups in 12 and 14, said that a lot of players are playing for individual stats and not team stats, which is not something you want to hear coming out of the locker room from one of your assistant captains who's a leader in the organization. So
major leader, yeah.
They have completely fallen apart. But again, as a Ducks fan, I'm mad that they're losing games.
Love to see it. Yeah. I ain't mad about it. I mean, we ain't winning anything, games or playoff anything. So I'll take seeing the Kings crash and fall. That works for me.
It's funny you say that because obviously every time I work a Ducks game, there's some staff members that are also fans as well. And they always, well, you think we're going to win tonight? And I'm like, no. They're like, what? Why? I'm like, why would we want to win now? We're third from last in the entire league. We might as well just keep losing and get our draft pick opportunity higher. And then I had a fan, I think that was when the Rangers were in town. He walked up to the register and asked one of my staff members, and obviously he's wearing all his Ranger gear, do you think you guys are going to win tonight? And before my staff member could say anything, I was like, no. He was like, what? And I was like, we're trying to get that draft pick, man. You guys can have the wins. You guys are playing for playoffs. We are definitely not going to make it. So, I mean, I don't want them to obviously lose every game, but at the same time, if we're not going to make the playoffs, then there's no real reason to push it instead of trying to get a higher draft pick. And the trade deadline's coming up, I think, in a month or so. So we'll see what the organization does as far as moving some pieces that are worth something to other organizations, and then can help us get more draft capital and more younger prospects.
Yeah, we got to build it up, man. We can't turn it around exactly in one season unless you have somebody like you were referencing with the Oilers, like a Connor McDavid. You know what I mean? Yeah. We need some of the top players, and if it means we have to build it through the draft, then so be it.
That's the way you have to do it, especially in the NHL. The salary cap is a hard cap compared to any other league. You cannot go a penny over it. If you do, you got to make a cut. So the fact that we have a lot of young kids and we can continue to get more young guys, then that means we can have more cap space. And then if we're ready to make a jump at one point and we have some cap space to use in the offseason to bring in a veteran that could ultimately help us, then it's a win-win at that point. But we got to get there first.
Yeah. Where we will be getting is this weekend, after the games conclude on Wednesday, is All-Star Weekend, going to be in Toronto. It's actually a pretty cool format, the way that they kind of do it. It's the same 3-on-3 format that they've been had since, I think, since 2016, I think it was.
Yeah, it's been a few
Um,
years.
but it's kind of exciting. They do it similar to how the NBA used to do it. Now the NBA is going back to East West, but it's Thursday night, the draft, and it's basically 4 teams that are going to be picked kind of playground style, where you have a captain and they just choose people that they're going to have. I think it's 9 players and then 2 goalies for each team or something like that. So should be pretty good. We have a breakdown of the teams here. Of the team captains here, let me say that there's 4 teams in general. I'll take the first 2 if you want to take the other 2.
All right, sounds good.
The first one is Team Matthews. This is led by Austin Matthews of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And each team also comes with a celebrity captain. And the celebrity captain for Team Matthews is Justin Bieber.
Of course it is.
Obviously staying Canadian here. That makes sense, being that it's in Toronto and the sport itself is very Canadian, eh?
Oh yeah,
The second the second team is actually referencing the gentleman that we've talked about this whole segment, Team McDavid, represented by Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. His celebrity captain will be Canadian actor Will Arnett.
Oh, that's awesome. I love Will Arnett. That's great.
Yeah, I think that'll be good. Let's go through the next 2, Mo.
Yeah, so the next 2 are going to be Team Hughes, which is Jack Hughes from the New Jersey Devils will be the captain, and their celebrity captain will be Michael Bublé. So another get some singing in there as far as that goes. Well, I'll be interested to see who sings the national anthem for the game that weekend. Actually, I don't know who.
Right, they're gonna double team it.
And then the 4th team is actually going to be Team McKinnon, which is Nathan McKinnon from the Colorado Avalanche, who's having just a spectacular season as well and deserves this as to be the captain. And their celebrity captain on that team will be singer Tate McRae, who personally I don't know who she is, but I looked her up and she is a Canadian singer. So again, just having all the Canadians there in Toronto, which makes sense. And the fact that Austin Matthews is a captain of the team and that's their city that's hosting, I think makes it even better. Because again, another face of the league, Austin Matthews had, I think, 70 goals a couple seasons ago and
Sheesh.
is on a tear right now. I think he's even ahead of his pace of that year that he had 70 at this point. So it's a good thing to see, and it'll be fun. The NHL does it right. They try to make it a little. I mean, the game is 3-on-3, so it's not a typical game. It's kind of like an overtime situation that they do in the regular season.
I like
but it's
it,
fun the way they do it, and it's a fun event overall. The NHL does really good. Actually, my brother-in-law texted me on, I think it was New Year's Day or the 2nd, when they had the outdoor game in Seattle with Vegas and the Kraken, and he talked about, dude, the NHL just like knows how to put on an event, like their entry into the ice and everything they do pregame and during the intermissions with concerts in a sense. The NHL just gets it and knows how to put on a show. So I'll be interested to see how this event goes up in Toronto, which is home of one of the original 6 organizations in the league.
And to be honest with you, if you're paying attention to it, not necessarily on a season-long basis, but the game of hockey itself is very, very interesting to watch.
Oh.
It is, like we've talked about before, tremendously better to watch in person than it is on
so
television.
much.
But even when you're watching it on TV, dude, if you're paying attention, it's a fun game to watch. So, like you said, great show, but also a great product, especially when you have all-star games, you got the best players in the league. And for such a violent sport, they don't hit as hard as they do in regular games, but they're still going to play. Granted, the 3-on-3 is what helps spread it out a little bit. You have less checking because you got just less people. But it should be pretty interesting. I'll probably catch a couple of it. A couple moments of the game. I know I'll probably won't be watching all of it. I don't want to lie, but it'll be interesting to see for sure. The thing that I actually probably will spend time watching is they also have like a skills competition similar to what the NFL tries to do with the Pro Bowl, as well as what the NBA has tried to do with their skills competition. But this one is like really kind of mixed, and I actually really like it. It takes 12 players. They compete in like this skills competition, but the winner takes home $1 million, a US. Dude, I know they're playing in Toronto, but it's US dollars, not Canadian dollars. Just so we're on the same
That
page.
makes sense.
I'll go over the format quickly because I thought it was just interesting of it. So of the 12 players, you get to pick 4 of these 6 events, and the points are kind of divvied up. I think first place is worth 5 points, second place is 4 points, and so on. And so of these 4 events, of the 6 events, you pick 4 of them, and the top 8 move on to a shootout. So the 6 events are as follows: fastest skater, hardest shot, stick handling, one-timers, a passing challenge, and accuracy shooting. I thought that was pretty cool. They gotta get all the elements of the game there, besides checking.
Yeah, you can't have the best checker.
Right? Yeah. All right. Who's going to be taking the hits here? And see if we can mess that guy. Whoever hurts that guy the most wins. Yeah. No, it'd be pretty much. But after the top 8, they move into a shootout. And the top 6, 2 people are eliminated there. And the top 6 advance to the final, which is just an obstacle course of all the skills. So you have to basically ensure that you're good at all of them. Just because you pick 4 to make it to the end, you got to be able to do all 6 to kind of get there. I think it's kind of interesting. You going to watch?
Yeah, absolutely. It's cool too because they do the skills events on Friday and they do the All-Star game on Saturday, which most sports do it Saturday, Sunday. So it'll be cool. I just the skills competition challenge thing that they do where you have to jump and skate and everything is kind of like the NBA one where you have to like do the pass and then shoot a 3 and then shoot a layup and go through the waves of the guys. So like I think it's a lot of fun. The NHL does, like I said, does a good job of putting on these shows, and it'll be interesting to see who kind of comes out of these challenges and who gets the ultimate $1 million prize.
Yeah, $1 million on the line. That ain't bad. That's better than the in-season tournament prize. Sheesh.
Yeah, true. And
Come on, NBA.
My only issue or complaint, I guess, about this All-Star game is the jerseys. They're not the most nicest looking things. Now, they're not the worst things I've ever seen, but I think my biggest complaint about them is they're in Toronto, and these jerseys, which we're going to put up on the screen if you're watching on YouTube so you can see all 4 of them next to each other, those colors don't really scream Toronto to me. There's like a yellow one, and the NHL All-Star logo itself on all 4 jerseys is really big and yellow and just bright, and it screams more like Vegas or Nashville to me. But Justin Bieber, who's a part of the event, as you mentioned, as he's part of Austin Matthews' team, he, I guess, had something to do with partially designing these jerseys, and he's had a partnership with the Maple Leafs prior. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just not a fashion person, so it doesn't hit me the same. But I'm just like, the jerseys are not that great.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I don't know fashion either, so don't take my word for it either. But I actually saw the first time I saw it was when I was watching the Rangers game the other day before our Monday episode, or maybe it was just in the middle of the week. I don't even remember. But PK Subban was given as in the intermission time. They went to the studio, and he was given a jersey, and he kind of threw it on. They had it on the desk, and I forgot who the other commentator was there, but I just recognized PK as great freaking hockey player. So yeah, I kind of saw it, and I didn't hate it per se, but I definitely wasn't impressed. So I'm kind of with you there a little bit for sure. So
I think the thing is normally the All-Star game, whoever's hosting it, the jerseys tend to like reflect that city or that team or that stadium. Like it was in Florida last year, so they had like the Miami Vice kind of colors to it. And I was like, hey, that makes sense. So like these colors and designs don't really scream Toronto to me, I guess, is where I'm like kind of lost at it. But again,
they need to put Drake and more OVO stuff on there, or what is it?
No, it doesn't have to do that. It doesn't reflect the city or the organization that's hosting it in my eyes. But again, what do I know? I work at a hockey arena, but all I do is sell the stuff. I don't design it myself, so maybe I don't know.
Well, let us know in the comments which jersey you like, if you like any of them, or what you hate about it also. See if you agree with Corey or if you agree with Justin Bieber. Let us know in the comments which one is your favorite. Well, that's a pretty cool place to end another marathon episode. Again, I think every time we start this, I'm like, I don't know if this was going to be very long, and here we are, an hour and a half deep. But it was another good one. But we're not done yet. As we end every one of our episodes, we like leaving you with little tidbits of information. And seeing that it's Monday, what does that mean, bro?
It's time for MILF Monday, sir.
Let's get it.
I cannot believe a fine woman like this produced a guy like Stifler. Dude! Took some MILF. What the hell is that? MILF.
Man, I love facts.
Yeah.
Hey guys. MILF Monday. Nice, bro. All right, let's get it. What fact do you have for me today?
Well, since we now know the Super Bowl matchup, I'm going to go football with this one. And it's going to go with Mahomes because he is the man of the hour and the dynasty is actively going as we talk. So in his career, because, again, he's only 28 years old, so that's the craziest part to me at least. His playoff career is 14-3, and if he wins in 2 weeks, he'll be 15-3 and have his 3rd Super Bowl in his pocket already, which is just crazy to me because Brady, by the time he was 28, also had 3 Super Bowls and was 12-2 in his career. So a little bit more wins and 1 more loss, but it ultimately is kind of on pace for that. I know that's not what you want in the long run, but at this point in time, it is having to be discussed. Now, the fact that he has 3 losses, these are the 3 losses and who he lost to during that time. 2 of them are to Tom Brady. One was an AFC title game, which was the last Super Bowl Brady won in New England. And the other one was when he lost to Brady in the Super Bowl when he was in Tampa, which is just insane. The third loss actually came to Joe Burrow in the AFC title game just a couple years ago when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl and ultimately
Not
lost
a bad loss.
to the Rams. The other part about this too is Peyton Manning in his entire career, who retired when he was 39, his entire playoff record is 14-13. So the fact that Mahomes is 28 and has already have as many wins as Peyton did in his entire career. Mind you, Peyton's last game as a professional was when the Broncos won the Super Bowl, and that was his 14th win at age 39. So Mahomes is just breaking all kinds of numbers when it comes to
well ahead of schedule, right?
Other greats. Yeah, way ahead of schedule as far as that goes. And will be interesting to see what happens in 2 weeks and where this number goes and what he continues to do moving forward.
That's crazy, bro. Let me add to the stat if you don't mind.
Oh, of course.
To kind of give some context, here's who Patrick Mahomes has recently tied after beating Baltimore. Terry Bradshaw, John Elway, Steve Young, Peyton Manning, as you just mentioned. Those are the people that he now sits at 14 with. Again, if he were to win that Super Bowl, he would then sit alone in third place with 15, trailing only Joe Montana, who has 16. Jeez. And what was that guy you named again? Tom Brady? Oh, yeah. He's got 35.
That's crazy, dude. I mean, you did go to 10 Super Bowls. You got to win at least 2 games to get there if you're the top seed. So I guess it makes sense, but that's a lot of playoff wins.
Yeah. So
no one's ever
a little bit behind.
Well, Patrick Mahomes might. It seems impossible right now.
It does. That's a dynasty for sure, the New England one. But yeah, I mean, he's 1 win away from sitting alone ahead of plenty of Hall of Fame great quarterbacks who we consider some of the best all time. I mean, those names I named are goat status, you know.
Mahomes could win next in 2 weeks and retire, and he'd go into the Hall of Fame on a first ballot already. So the fact that he has an opportunity to keep adding to it is crazy.
And then go play baseball.
Yeah, right. His dad was
for the team that he owns.
So.
Dang, that's crazy. What a great stat, dude. That's so true. Again, I'm rooting for the dynasty to continue. I know a bunch of people are on the Niners train, but you know what? Let's pretend because they win all the time. If the Niners win, they'll have 6 tied for the most behind with the Steelers and the Patriots. So let's not pretend like the Niners ain't win shit. If the Lions were here, I would understand why everyone would be on the Lions bandwagon. First time there, no Super Bowl wins, tired of the Chiefs, blah, blah, blah. But the Niners been around. They lost in the Super Bowl to the Ravens. They lost in the Super Bowl to the Chiefs. They've been running the NFC for some time now. Let's not pretend like they're coming out of nowhere either, right? So, and giving them 6, they're going to be talking a lot more shit. So,
it'd be really cool if it happened, and this is thinking way far ahead for next season. What if somehow the Niners and the Chargers were in the Super Bowl? It would be a rematch of the 90s when the Niners murdered them, but Harbaugh would be coaching against the team he took to a Super Bowl and ultimately lost to his brother. Dang, that would be crazy.
Yeah, true. Yeah, they can't have a Harbaugh Bowl anymore in the Super Bowl, at least, because of both AFC. Maybe AFC title game or something like that, but no Super Bowl time. No, that's good. That's true. Nice, man. Well, I think it's a great stat. We got plenty of these facts and segments of sports history and basically all of our episodes. If they wanted to go find some, man, where could they find them?
Yeah, if you want to listen to just the audio version, you can find us on Apple and Spotify and search Our View from the Bench. Or like we said, if you want to check us out on YouTube and see some of the slides and just see us on the screen itself, you can search YouTube for Our View from the Bench as well.
Yes. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at OurViewFTB. Being that it's Monday, my week ahead looks long, but how's yours going?
Actually, not too bad. I think the Ducks are home for 1 game on Wednesday, and then, as we mentioned, the All-Star break is this weekend, so just got to get through 1 game, and then I do have a couple of
San Jose?
Yeah, San Jose, which is, I think, the worst team in hockey, so it'll be the battle of the two of the 3 worst teams in the NHL going into the All-Star break.
This is a Pistons-Wizards game going on.
Yeah, it kind of is, actually. That's a good way to put it. But we're not trading with each other either because we're division rivals. I don't see that happening at the deadline.
No.
But yeah, I got the game Wednesday, and then I got a couple concerts on the weekend, but that's not till Friday and Saturday, so we'll get into more on that on Thursday's episode. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got. I had my stretch lab appointment today. I'm feeling, like I said earlier, feeling nice and loose and ready for the week to go, and we'll see how it goes. What about you?
Sweet, man. Tomorrow, I actually got my dad coming over for dinner. I'm gonna make some food here, not like going out, but gonna make some stuff here. And then Wednesday, I'm hoping to sneak out to Disneyland because I was still not able to go last week. I've been sick since freaking 2023. It seems like,
dude,
trying to get out and go.
Totally forgot about you. You sound so much better the last day or two. I didn't even notice and totally forgot that you were sick all that time.
Yeah, Dude, bro, it's been brutal, man. Been chugging antibiotics and just trying to get some rest and stuff. Haven't been able to do much of anything, but at least I've been able to do this podcast. I've been having fun doing that still. So, still the
Absolutely.
highlight. But other than that, just a normal old week of work for me. Again, we got more to talk about on Thursday. We're going to talk about some of the matchups that will be going down in the Super Bowl. Hopefully, we have some more NHL, NFL coaching hirings, and yeah, excited to look forward to it, man. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
We appreciate everybody stopping by. Thank you as always for seeing things from our view from the bench. I'm Brendan.
And I'm Corey. And like we always say, enjoy the sports until we talk again.
Peace.
This was a Sycamore Fourth Studios production.